Hey everyone, I'm Melanie from Streamlined Legal, where we help law firms get the most out of their practice management software. Tonight, I am super excited to talk to you about cleaning up those old trust requests. Now, I know a lot of you have these because in the past, it was not really possible, or there was no really great way to clean up these old trust requests, especially trust requests where someone had made a partial payment, but now we've decided not to collect that full trust request that was originally made, and now there's really no good way to clean it up. It really makes it look like, in fact, that we're owed money, and that can be really confusing. So I'm going to hop on over here to my Clio screen so we can take a little bit more in-depth look at this. If I click on billing on the left here, of course, you're going to see all of my unpaid bills and trust requests. And so that can be a little deceiving, right? If I come over here and I look, I can, of course, filter these bills. If I come up here to filters so that I can only see the trust requests, right? And I apply that filter and then I only see my trust requests. That's helpful, of course, to see them split out from those invoices, but the trick is it still can create quite a mess if we don't clean these up, right? And so let's take a very common scenario. Well, I guess not super common in most practices, but it does happen that I go ahead, I'm getting ready for a big hearing or a big trial, and I want to request my client replenish their trust. So I prepare a trust request, I send it out. Maybe it's one of these, and this allows me to be able to make that request to my client through Clio. Super helpful, super really useful. But what happens is, let's say I go in here to this trust request, let's say 767. And I come in here and we see that request was made for $5,000. Well, let's say now what happens is I take that $5,000 request and I'm getting ready for my trial, my hearing, whatever. Thankfully, before I'm finished my preparation, before we go into court, it actually settles. And so I am able to return some of that money to my client. So what we're going to see here is maybe they only made a payment of $2,500, let's say. Let's make it an even $3,000. So my client paid $3,000 out of $5,000, and I'm going to go ahead and record that payment. By the way, they gave me a check, and that's going to go into my trust account. And so I'm taking that $3,000 out of $5,000 into my trust account. I'm going to record that payment. And now it's showing me, now they've got a balance of $2,000 on that trust request, right? Again, that's going to show up in my unpaid bills, and it's going to drive me a little crazy because now we've resolved the case, we've settled it. I don't need any more money from them. In fact, I'm going to be able to send some money back to them. But there's no good way in the past to be able to get rid of that proposed $2,000 balance, right? But now there is. So what I want you to do now is I want you to go to your trust request, and I want you to go ahead, pretend like we're recording a payment. And if I put there's $2,000 balance, but if I put a payment in here of $0, you'll see down here, it gives me this option to write off the amount. And in this case, it actually calls it adjust trust request to amount recorded. Disregard remaining $2,000, right? Now, you'll recognize maybe this is the same spot where we can write off invoices, right? Whereas that's a true write-off because, of course, we were owed that money. But in this case, it basically says we're going to disregard the remaining $2,000. I record that payment of $0, and now it updates. Oops, sorry, forgot to specify where that money was going to, which is a little bit ridiculous since it's not really going anywhere. It's $0. But I come down here to record this payment. It's going to give me this warning, right? To make sure that I know what I'm doing, right? I'm going to write it off and record the balance. Now you'll see it adds an adjustment, right? So it does keep the original bill plus the adjustment, but it gives me a $0 balance. So now when I go back to my matter or back to my trust request, it's not going to be looking for that $2,000 from here until eternity, right? And that's what was driving a lot of people crazy, or at least maybe it was just me, when we look at our bills here. So now I can start cleaning up this list of trust requests. Again, these are invoices as well, so I'm going to filter to see just the trust requests. I can start cleaning up these trust requests by either voiding them if I no longer need them, right? That's been around for a little while. If I don't need this trust request anymore, we've resolved the case, they don't need to pay anything in, I can go ahead and void the trust request right here, right? It says, am I sure? Of course. And then it goes ahead and voids it. So that's really helpful if I no longer need it, right? But if I'm going to try and get rid of a balance on one that was partially paid, that's when I'm going to go in and check that write-off box. So please do dive into those trust requests, get them cleaned up. I really do truly believe that that's going to help with obviously your bookkeeping, but also just to be able to keep a clean Clio account, be able to focus on the amounts that you actually are owed and be able to go after those amounts as opposed to getting distracted and constantly annoyed, frankly, by those partially paid or no longer necessary trust requests. I hope that helps. Have a great evening. I'll talk to you soon.